What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another top 10 commander video. This time I would like to go over my picks for the top 10 best precon upgrades for the Dungeons of Death Adventures in the Forgotten Realms commander deck. Now this is the same commander deck with Sephris of the Hidden Ways. There's also a backup commander, Nihilor, but since this deck is all about the dungeon mechanic, don't expect to see too much in here to synergize with that commander. So just like in my previous precon upgrades video, I'm going to be focusing exclusively on synergizing with our primary commander in Sephris. But before I get into the video, first I would like to remind you that most of you who are watching right now are not actually subscribed to the channel, so I'd really appreciate it if you took a second to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you so much, I appreciate all of you. So the first one here, number 10, is Esper Sentinel. Esper Sentinel is exactly what you want in this kind of deck, even though it's not like you're deprived in card draw. You could always go to black or blue. The advantage to playing creature-based card draw in this kind of deck is that it's going to fuel your commander. You're always able to sacrifice it. You get to trigger Sephris, venture into the dungeon. I think having that as an option, it's not just a Mystic Remora, really will help you in the long run. So number 9, we have a similar idea here in card draw. We have Frantic Search, a little bit easier to get a hold of. I think it's not going to be as sought after for competitive EDH reasons, but Frantic Search is exactly what you want to trigger Sephris. Anytime you discard a creature, anytime you mill a creature, anytime a creature is going to hit your graveyard, you're going to venture into the dungeon. What I really like about Frantic Search is that unlike a lot of other cantrips, this is still going to be what you want mid to late game. You're going to draw 2 cards, you're going to be able to untap the 3 lands that you likely tap to play it, and you're going to keep your turn going, which late game with this deck, it's a lot of fun. You're going to want to keep on completing those dungeons so you can bring back creatures, and the quicker you're able to do that, the more efficiently you can do that without spending much mana, the better off you're going to be. And for all intents and purposes, Frantic Search is a free way of doing that. So number 8 is Priest of Fell Rites. It's a newer card from Modern Horizons 2, but I guess we could also throw a nod to Doomed Necromancer because they're pretty much the same card. Doomed Necromancer, I would say, is a little bit better because while you are paying a black, it's not restricted to sorcery speed, so you're able to sacrifice at your opponent's end step, which is usually better. Means you can venture into the dungeon, at the same time bring back a creature from your graveyard. The advantage to playing something like Priest of Fell Rites is that, only 2 mana, a little bit cheaper, will allow you to do other things in the same turn in addition to casting her. So I guess that's maybe the upside as to why people are looking into that creature, but I think they're both great, can't really go wrong with either or. And then number 7, we have Master of Death. This is when it gets interesting here because I don't really think Master of Death is that high up on the list for a lot of other people, but I think this card is great. When I played this at a commander event, Master of Death was easily one of the most impactful creatures because even when it dies, you can pay 1 life at the beginning of your upkeep to bring it back to your hand. But when you play it again, you get to surveil 2, which is kind of like Scrying, but instead of going to the bottom of your deck, they go to your graveyard if you don't want them. So that's perfect if you happen to have creatures at the top too. That will trigger your Sephris, and I swear I triggered Sephris every single time I played this card. So it's great value if you're able to kill it off, bring it back over and over again. It's a great creature, it's another new creature, but you're not going to break the bank with this kind of upgrade. Number 6, we have Sir Conrad the Grim. Now we're talking about ways of actually winning, ways of dealing more damage, and Sir Conrad is one of the most intimidating creatures when it comes to doing exactly that. What makes Sir Conrad different than something like a Blood Artist, which a lot of people would default to in any kind of sacrifice aristocrat deck, is that you're doing more than just simply killing off creatures. You're bringing them back from the graveyard to the battlefield, you're bringing them back from your graveyard to your hand, you're also milling creatures too. I mean, with this deck in Sephris, there are so many ways of putting creatures into the graveyard from other places, and there are so many ways of bringing them back to the battlefield or to your hand. Sir Conrad really takes advantage of that better than really any other aristocrat creature, because that's not only going to trigger whenever that happens, but you're also dealing a damage to each opponent. And if that wasn't enough, it also triggers when their creatures die, whenever their creatures are milled into their graveyards too. So all around, if you're looking to just add more damage, this is a no-brainer. Another cheap card that you can toss in there. It's not going to make it much more expensive than the original precon cost. And another very affordable card, but one I think is an absolute must-have for any kind of deck. Number 5, Viscera Seer. Got reprinted last year in Commander Legends, and it's a good thing that it did because it's a staple in so many good black decks now. You sacrifice a creature to scry 1, that's really it, but you want to have this kind of cheap creature that will allow you to sacrifice creatures whenever you feel like it. The scrying is just a cherry on top that really makes it worth it. And since we have a lot of surveilling in here, we have some mill in here, it's sometimes useful to scry. We could also throw a nod to other sack outlets like Ashnod's Altar, because Ashnod's Altar could help you keep your turn going. However, this is kind of the same argument that I have for playing Esper Sentinel over something like Mystic Remora in this deck. Sometimes using creatures for this kind of purpose is better in the long run because you're going to trigger Sephirus more often because of the fact that a creature is going to die. You could sacrifice your Viscera Seer whenever you feel like it. If your Ashnod's Altar goes bye-bye, there's not really much else you can do. And then number 4, we have Burning Rune Demon. When it enters the battlefield, you get to search your library for exactly 2 cards not named Burning Rune Demon. Good luck trying to accomplish that difficult feat. If you do, you reveal those cards, an opponent chooses one of them, put the chosen card into your hand and the other into your graveyard, and then shuffle. Good thing about this is that you have a lot of good cards in your deck, like Karmic Guide, you could throw in a Sun Titan. You can make sure that it's 2 creatures that you're searching up for, you're going to trigger Sephirus, and in addition to that, you're probably getting a creature that you want in your hand and a creature that you want in your graveyard. Burning Rune Demon is ridiculous because for only 6 mana, you're essentially doing the same thing as a Runescarred Demon, but even better because, first of all, it's only a few dollars to get this card, it's crazy, and you're getting 2 cards. It doesn't really matter the location where they end up, it's going to help your deck out tremendously. So this is definitely a high recommendation for me because it's a mythic, it is this cheap, it's still only a few dollars, and it's going to synergize really well with a lot of decks. Being able to search up 2 cards, it's not restricted to card type what you're allowed to search up. This card is bonkers. And then number 3 is Entomb. For almost exactly the same reason, you want to be able to search up any card and dump it into your graveyard. Sephirus decks are going to be able to bring back creatures, they're going to be able to bring back some pretty powerful ones from your graveyard to the battlefield. Entomb will not only set you up well for that, but it'll also get you a Venture into the Dungeon trigger with your Sephirus. It really doesn't seem to matter how your creature goes into your graveyard, so long as it goes there. And Entomb for only 1 mana instant speed is one of the best setup cards that you can play in any graveyard deck, and that seems to be the case here with Sephirus. In decks like this is as good as something like a Vampiric Tutor. So number 2, we have Doom Whisperer. I already talked about how powerful something like Master of Death was for me, and that's just like a one-time ETB use that you can occasionally bring back and replay again. Doom Whisperer is another great advantage card because it's one of the few ways that you can consistently, and for only really paying life, just dump creatures into your graveyard. I mean, that's really it. You're just paying 2 life each time. You can easily gain life in this deck too. There are dungeon triggers that will gain you life back. For each time you activate that by paying 2 life, you're going to surveil 2. So if you really like a creature that's in the top 2 of your deck, you get to then put it into your graveyard. On top of that, you still get a pretty decent 6/6 flying trample creature, which is going to help you out big time in combat, only 5 mana. So it's an engine in this deck. Because you can activate this whenever you feel like it, you can activate this on each of your opponent's turns. You will only get to venture into the dungeon once with Sephirus each turn, so you gotta make that count, and being able to activate this on your opponent's turns means you're going to be able to venture into the dungeon a lot more often, even if you are paying a bunch of life. And that would have been, in my opinion, the best upgrade if it weren't for this other card. Number 1, Tortured Existence. This crazy cheap enchantment, I mean, this card is under $1. You can find it from Stronghold, you can find the list version, but it's just a 1 mana black enchantment where you can pay 1 black, choose and discard a creature card, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Guess what? You don't really need to do anything crazy with this card. You don't need to have any kind of elaborate combo here. You could just choose and discard the same creature to get back another creature. It doesn't even have to be more than just a couple creatures. It could be the same 2 creatures that you're going to be doing this for. And all that really matters is that you're getting to venture into the dungeon several times with Sephirus. Again, like with Doom Whisperer, you're going to want to do this on each of your opponent's turns, so you get to maximize the value here, but for only 1 black mana. That's essentially what this card reads. 1 black, venture into the dungeon. And oh yeah, I mean, mid to late game, you might be able to bring back a good creature card from your graveyard to your hand, but early game, it's a great way to trigger that, get back into the dungeon, and then late game, you can bring back a very powerful creature that you do want to cast from your hand. I know I talked about the value of having creature-based abilities in here because you want to have a creature-focused deck, you want to be able to trigger that commander ability often, but this is a pretty big exception here because it's really the only card that really does this. It's such an abusable ability with this deck. And we could talk about some other abusable abilities like with Israrak and Rooftop Storm. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous, but to me, that's not even so much Sephiroth, that's that little combo interaction. Tortured Existence is all about synergizing with Sephiroth here, really getting the most out of your commander, and I think that's what you should do when you're looking to upgrade a Precon deck. How can I get the most out of this commander? So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about the newer format here. Top 10s for Precon upgrades. So far, it's something I enjoy doing. But as always, subscribe, like, comment, share, hit that notification bell. Void here signing off. I will see you all next time.